Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ruth Florence and I am a former psychology lecturer with a concentration in forensic psychology. If this is your first time here, welcome, and if you have been following this series, thank you for staying with me. So this video is a continuation of part 1, Training in Forensic Psychology, where we discuss the early foundations and the importance of training in forensic psychology. If you haven't been watched part 1 yet, I strongly recommend that you pause here and visit my playlist 2026 because everything we discuss today builds directly on that foundation. Now, in this part, we are going to go deeper. We will talk about how forensic psychology training actually looks in the real world, the different pathways, the degree and non-degree options, and why training quality matters more than titles. So please listen carefully because this is where many misunderstandings begin. To understand training in forensic psychology, we must first understand how the field came into existence. My friends, please pay attention here, because forensic psychology did not emerge naturally or smoothly. In the early 20th century, psychology and law were separate words. Courts relied on legal reasoning, authority, and institution. And psychology at that time was still fighting to be recognized as a science. One of the earliest figures to challenge this separation was Hugo Münsterberg. So Hugo Münsterberg urged something radical for this time, that memory, perception, intention, and suggestion, all central to legal decisions, are psychological processes. And in his book On the Witness Stand, in 1908, he questioned eyewitness reliability and judicial bias. This was deeply uncomfortable for the legal system. So let me be very clear here. Münsterberg did not create forensic psychology as a profession. So what he did? He did was create intellectual tension. And the tension is often where new disciplines begin. However, and this is the crucial, ideas alone do not create professions. Professions require structured training, and that did not happen until much later. We now move forward to the 1970s. By this time, psychology was well established as a scientific discipline. Psychologists were already being invited into courtrooms. But here was the problem, and please listen carefully. Psychologists were participating in legal decisions without specialized forensic training. Courts were asking questions about competence, responsibility, and risk. Psychologists were answering using clinical frameworks not designed for legal decision making. So this gap became impossible to ignore. In 1973, at the University of Nebraska, Bruce D. Sells helped establish one of the first structured forensic and law programs with a forensic focus. So this moment is historically important because forensic psychology began to shift from informal involvement to intentional training. This is where forensic psychology starts becoming a professional identity, not just an interest. Now, let's look at the present. Many students ask a very simple question. What degree do I need to become a forensic psychologist? And the honest answer, according to Krauss and Sells, is there is no single pathway. And this confuses people. But this confusion exists because forensic psychology sits between disciplines. So, some programs emphasize clinical, some emphasize research and law, some offer only minimal forensic exposure. My friends, please pay close attention here. The title of a degree does not guarantee forensic competence. Two graduates may both hold a psychology doctorate, yet one may be well trained for forensic work and the other may be completely unprepared. This is why evaluation training content matters more than labels. So prepare yourself before you train yourself into this field. Krauss and Sells make an essential distinction here. So training in forensic psychology happens through both degree and non-degree pathways. Degree programs provide structure, theory, and research foundation. They shape how psychologists think. But non-degree training is where forensic competence is refined and tested. So this all includes supervised forensic practica, postdoctoral fellowships, continuing education, and specialized workshops. My friends, please listen carefully here. Forensic competence develops over time through layered experiences. So a degree may open the door, But supervised forensic work teaches psychologists how to stand inside legal system responsibility. Now, please stay with me here. This is a key idea in the entire chapter. Krauss and Sells ask us to change the way we think about training. Most people like clear boxes. They like labels. They like clear paths. But forensic psychology does not work that way. Instead of dividing training into fixed categories, Krauss and Sells describe it as a continuum. What does it mean? It means programs are not either clinical or research. They exist somewhere in between with different emphasis. My friends, please listen carefully. Thinking in terms of continuum helps us avoid oversimplification, and it helps students make informed decisions instead of chasing titles. Most important, it reminds us that forensic competence is shaped by how someone is trained, not by what the program is called. Let's start on one end of the continuum. This is what Krauss and Sells describe as clinically incoherent forensic training. In this model, the foundation is clinical psychology. So the students receive strong training in assessment, in diagnosis, and psychological formulation. But here's the critical point, and please pay attention here. Those clinical skills are not used in the same way in forensic settings. In therapy, assessment helps guide treatment. In forensic psychology, assessment helps answer specific legal questions. Questions like what? Question like, is this individual competent? What is the level of risk? Does the psychological data meet legal standards? Because of this, training emphasizes forensic report writing. Reports must be clear, must be structured, must be defensible. And you have to know, many graduates of this model work in correctional facilities, forensic hospitals, or court-appointed evaluation roles. And notice this, their primary responsibility is not treatment, it is objective, legally relevant evaluation. Now, let's move to the other end of the continuum. This is the psychology and law, a research-oriented model. In this model, the focus is not clinical practice. The focus is scientific research related to legal processes. The psychologists study how juries make decisions, how memory can be distorted, how people perceive risk and responsibility. I repeat always to call you my friends. Please notice something important here. Many of these psychologists will never conduct forensic assessment, and yet their influence can be enormous. The research shapes court procedures. It also shapes how the legal policy, standards of evidence. So forensic psychology is not only about individual cases, it is also about shaping the systems. Between these two ends of the continuum, we find integrated or hybrid models. These programs attempt to combine clinical competence, legal understanding, and research literacy. Why? Because real forensic work is very complex. Professionals may be asked to evaluate, to consult, to conduct research, and communicate findings to legal audiences. Please listen carefully here. Integrated training is not easier. It is more demanding. It requires strong supervision, clear ethical boundaries, and maturity. Integration without clarity can be dangerous. That's why training quality matters more than levels. Across all models, Krauss and Salas emphasize core competencies. These are not optional. Forensic psychologists must understand the law not as lawyers but as informed professionals. They must assess carefully, communicate clearly, recognize their own biases. And please pause with me here. Bias awareness is not about being perfect. It is about being honest and reflective. Training must teach psychologists to question themselves before others' questions come in court. So, my friends, this chapter makes one message very idea. It is this: clinical psychology is not sufficient by job titles or other agreements. Courts are not therapy rooms. It is defined judged by not trials. And empathy, that while valuable, is psychology, law, and ethics. Courts require cautious conclusions. This is what protects the profession. Legally relevant reasoning. This will protect without forensic training as psychologists working unintentionally mislead the courts. And one important and in forensic psychology, mistakes are not protected. They become part of the legal record. So, this all what we learned together. My friends, from this chapter, the previous video, you combined with this video, clinical you learned about the training, how important training in forensic psychology.
Courts are not therapists.
Thank you so much.
Judges are not
Staying with
clients.
me,
And
together
empathy, while valuable,
forensic
is not the goal.
and I will see you in the next video.
Courts
Bye-bye.
require cautious conclusion.
So, for takeaway, I want to let you live with this. Forensic psychology is not simply clinical psychology in a courtroom. It is a distinct professional identity. That identity is formed through training, very carefully, structured, ethically grounded training. And understanding this is the first step toward responsible forensic practice. So, from both videos, from part 1 about training in forensic psychology until this video, both of these explain how the training, the complexity in forensic psychology. With this video, I believe all of you, my friends, will understand about the basic, the foundation about forensic psychology. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. Ciao, ciao.